IUCN really can come together in raising the awareness to particular problems and then trying to build the capacity of those public prosecutors. There are some good public prosecutors in Argentina, but how do we make that contagious and spread?
And even the national law of public ministry, I forgot to say that it includes that public prosecutors must also act in defense of the environment. And though the law is saying that, they're not doing anything. So it's already even in the law for the public ministry, but they don't do it anyway.
Can I pick on my friend from CITES with an idea on that one?
Well, you're talking about, especially when you speak of Latin America, a region I'm also from, you're speaking about a multifaceted problem, and non-respect, non-compliance with environmental legislation is, I'm not a prosecutor, and I'm not involved at all, but I have a good background in enforcement education. It strikes me that you're not going to solve a problem purely with enforcement. It's something much more complex. You have to get to the social roots of it, the political roots. I think, not speaking as a member of the site secretariat, I won't value here the opinion.
It's your personal opinion.
I think the one progress my own country has had is almost like an alcoholic, is to admit the problems it has with I'm in Brazil. I have a problem with corruption, and I think the progress that we're making now will certainly lead to better enforcement, to better compliance, regardless of the laws that have before. Anyway, thanks.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah, to follow up question for you, Hannah from Australia. We've had our first prosecution of bribery of foreign public officials. First criminal prosecution, although they're civil. So and if you do anything with, corruption, education, prevention, whatever?
We talk a lot about it, but no, we don't really. It gets too much into the national politics, and we try to focus on building the capacity of those who do enforcement, who do speak a strong message against corruption, but we do not really have gotten. We don't have the legs. We don't have the resources. We talk about it in our courses, but we don't have the manpower to get on the ground and try to fight the corruption. We try with education it's education to try to. Yeah, but it's hard. It's easy if you're a wildlife officer making $200 a month to turn the other way when someone's going to poach an elephant that could, fetch thousands of dollars for the tusks. It's a real challenge in many parts of the world right now. So.
Okay, thank you very much. I am Yanina from Ethiopia, and I'm happy to be in this Congress, and particularly in this session, because in this Congress I'm getting most of my teachers, which they have been teaching, and in this room again, Marcus used to be my teacher in 2009 in Union. So to say something on this, the presentation is very nice, and even though in my master's thesis I have worked on gap analysis on the law enforcement, wildlife law enforcement, particularly in Ethiopia, because I work for Ethiopian Wildlife Conservation Authority, and that thesis was revealing that there is a very deep awareness gap, especially on public prosecutors, judges, police, and even the general public, that having a rhino bundle is what's wrong with it. It's a jewelry, it's already, the elephant is already dead, so I can have it. So, based on that output of the research, we have tried to convince our bosses so that to have some funding to make an outreach program, particularly for prosecutors, judges, police, and custom officials, particularly in the Bole International Airport in the capital Addis Ababa, and in our transboundary border with Kenya, Moyale, and with Sudan, and with Somaliland. And particularly we concentrated on the Addis Ababa Bole International Airport, and now we have tried to create awareness for the customs there. And they tried to cease, so the seizure number automatically increases. So in 2011 alone, we had 2 or 4 seizures per year, and then we just take them all, arrest them, and take them to the court. The first challenge which we have faced was the prosecutor, the crime investigator, and the judge were not aware of the wildlife law of the country, and they tried to request us, is it a crime? So you having a bundle, so what's wrong with this? And then, in order to proceed, first, it takes us weeks. We have to send them a copy of the legislation. We have to explain the articles, and it's then that the judge, releases the person with an amount speech, maybe 3,000 Ethiopian currency. That's nothing for, especially for a foreigner, just like 1 year or 2 years. Then after we strongly worked out that, and then finally when they became aware, they became on board. Now they are trying to work hard on that. Even they have designed a fast prosecution procedure. So if any passenger is arrested at the Bole International Airport, outrightly it will be in the Crime Investigation Center, in the Federal Crime Investigation Center. In the same afternoon he will be in court and will be fined if he's a foreigner. So the next day he can fly back by rearranging his flights. So the awareness creation have worked for the prosecutors, for Crime Investigation Center, and there is no copy for legislation. They are not going to ask anything about it. If I pick up a phone and call for Federal Police Crime Investigation Center, then immediately he can send me a police to test the thing. So we work mostly 7 days a week, and even in the weekends we can assign a vehicle and a driver, so that over the weekends, if there is any seizure in the airport, so that the human rights issue must not be compromised, so that he will get a trial automatically. However, in the border areas, the corruption issue which is mentioned by my friend here and there is still existing. I can tell you one story that 4.6 kilogram rhino horn was confiscated in the Muyale border, and the person was arrested, and then he was freed by bail, and there was a series of appointments for the process of the law. Then after he set free, because they tried him with a custom law rather than wildlife law. So this is purely a question of bribery or corruption. Otherwise, they can prosecute by both rules. But when you deal, when you negotiate, the prosecutor can do whatever he likes. That's the question. The reason why you have mentioned earlier on that the amount of money is earning from his salary and the amount of money by making free, that amount of things is very. So we left with our rhino horn and the person is free. So collaboration nationally, regionally, and internationally is very essential, even to have the law enforcement. Sorry for taking more time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Lady.
Sure, okay.
1 and 2.
Yeah, yes, ladies first.
Sorry, I think I missed some of your, first part, so I'm not so sure whether, my comments and questions are appropriate. But one thing, caught my attention was, like you said about the indicators, enforcement indicators, because I'm working at the management planning of the marine protected area. Sorry, by the way, I'm from Korea and I'm working at the Marine Protected Area Center, which is the national coordinating unit to support the ministry. My organization is the member of ICN, and also we are government affiliate. Sorry about that. And so how these enforcement indicators are actually working after marine protected sort of PA management, like the planning, because we also use some of indicators, but since I'd like to hear a little bit more in detail regarding that section, whether it could be effective, to implement our policies. And secondly, since I also heard some of these transboundary issues, and we have that, in my country too. Actually, but since my concerns are more or less related to marine protected area, I believe regarding this yellow sea, we are, sharing together with, China and Korea. But usually these illegal, fishing activities from Chinese part, it's really hard to do something. Like, we have this NAPA, between China and Korea, the action plan, and we have other international and actually bilateral agreements between China and Korea. But if some illegal activities happen in Korean Marine Protected Area Center, usually other issues come first, and then all these, compromises behind the scene, comes first, and so actually we cannot do much. So I'm just wondering whether in other countries, since you mentioned about this enforcement, activities and initiatives you are doing in other countries, might you could say something more so we could follow, some of your cases to do something in marine protected areas. And also, just one more thing, sorry. If you are aware, certain issues right now at the IUCN, there are issues regarding North Korea and South Korea, and there are several discussions are going on to set the, these global sort of protected area between North and South, and this is also related to boundary marine protected area designation, and I'm just wondering how this enforcement mechanism could be applied in future if these kind of discussions going into practice in reality. So.
Thank you. My name is Wouter Vini. I'm with the Institute for Environmental Security. Sorry to come in late, so I may have missed something. But I want to share with you that we are part of a consortium which just got a major grant from the European Commission, a research grant basically, but to come up with recommendations for improving European institutions to deal with environmental crime. And the task of my institute especially is also to bring various parties together. So to link up with INES, with Impel, with Europol, with Interpol, and all the relevant networks dealing with environmental crime. So if you are interested in getting more to know about this project, which will start operationally 1st of December, share your your cards with me, and I'll inform you. A special task for us as Institute for Environmental Security is to look also at the use of remote sensing imagery for investigating, detecting environmental crime and enforcement. We are working with the European Space Agency on that, and it will also be part of the project which I just mentioned. So if you're interested in that, also please share your cards with me. Thank you very much.
Go there, and we'll come back to you, Gustavo, and we'll respond to your questions too.
Thanks. I'm Stephen Rowe from Traffic. We should talk about remote sensing, but that's the side. Just on, again, I came a bit late, so sorry if I covered things you covered. Just on what I was picking up in the last part on prosecutors and judiciary, and it's a critical part of the enforceability chain, and actually a critical part of the messaging. And to people, if you never get prosecuted, it's not such a big deal to have seizures or get caught. It's the financial loss. So we do a lot of training around with prosecutors and what we have to call sensitization for judiciary. So that's one for the training. And so, for example, in Southeast Asia, in India, in Mexico, South Africa, in some cases quite well structured programs, and we're very happy to share the experiences that. In fact, we're working with Marcus and the Science Secretariat Virtual College to make sure these materials really get out where they're suitable to do so. The other thing is, the other tactic, and I think someone mentioned something else, is literally hand-holding cases. And that's done in quite a few places. I've done it myself in the past, and it's fine as long as it's catalytic, because we've had other experiences where you handhold cases and then once you stop, the cases stop. We've even in some cases, particularly the UK, and I used to work on this more myself at the time, even taking private prosecutions, and you can do that in some countries, and actually just demonstrate that it can go through the courts and it can be done if you pay to do it. So the other issue is being picked up was corruption, and so that in a sense difficult. It is difficult. There are some cases where you can use projects that are, or methods that are aimed at transparency to different people of what's going on in different places, which helps. The other time, it really has to come from the top and political will. And we did a big study of corruption in the forest sector in Tanzania, which is published, I've given you a reference, where in the end, the only thing we could do was take it to the Prime Minister's office. And actually from there, it did filter down when it was put in terms of how much revenue is being lost and how many schools would be paid for from that revenue in the context of the National Development Plan. Then it started to, okay, there's a political resonance then, and the campaign started about that. Finally, I'd say, and this traffic is a self-critical. We were recently looking back at our 30 plus years history of working on wildlife trade, said not dealing enough, not trying hard enough to deal with corruption is a failing, because the big risk is that you're helping retraining, capacity building, etc., to prop up failing systems. And it's an absolutely critical thing that we all do find ways of solving, but having impact on that issue. If anyone has got some good ideas.
We'd love to share your materials on your site as well, so that would be most welcome.
Thank you.
You're a gentleman.
Thank you. I would like to share some ideas. You were saying that Barack Obama mentioned the environment very little in his address in the convention. He says, and I was telling you yesterday about the Mexican elections that just took place on July 1st. And the environment was not a subject in the campaign at all. There were no environmental events. Some candidates had a meeting with very few environmental groups, but it was not an issue. It was not a topic.
Even the Green Party.
Even the Green Party was running with the party that won the election. They didn't do anything. No? So the first question that we have to do to ourselves is why, as you say, why is the environment at the bottom? Why is not a priority? As we mentioned also yesterday, everything depends on nature. Everything depends on the environment and the natural resources. But at the same time, we are doing everything to disrupt nature. So there's something wrong in the model. No? There's something that's not working. So I think that's the first thing. The second one is that we need to take into account the funding issue. We talk, for example, in Mexico to the Office of the Attorney General for environmental protection, and they say we have no money, we have no resources. What can we? Imagine an inspector that makes $800 a month, or $700. What can he do with that? Nothing. No. So that's why you have corruption. So what are we going to do with this matter and many others that are there? And we've been talking about this for 20 years and nothing happens. So there's a lot of action, there's a lot of words and no action. And it's not only ideas, it's not only us, it's governments. When you go to governments and complain about something, they don't like it. They get mad at you, they believe that you are doing things against them, they take it personally, they don't like you, they make it. So what's happening with the governments? They don't want to enforce the law. They are part of the economic interest that is behind many of these projects. I mean, what really makes compliance and enforcement to be really not happen? One thing that I think we should do nationally and internationally is to work more to the Supreme Courts. I mean, I think the cases have to go there. I think they're more honest, they are more efficient, and they would be willing to work in favor of the environment and natural resources. But when you go to the court, you find out that they don't know anything about environmental law. No? a few years ago, we came to the institute that trains the judges, and they told us the 600 people that are there, nobody knows about them. So we need to train, we need to pay, we need to do a lot of this work. But I think that the judicial power has probably, it's a good window for us to try to assure us. The other thing that I wanted to say is that probably it would be a time for us to start thinking about an international body. As we have the International Court of Crime, la Corte Internacional, la Corte Penal Internacional, and we have that. Why don't we have a body for environmental matters? That's an idea.
The US blocks it.
Yes, but we need to have some, because sometimes enforcement and compliance happens when it comes from abroad. When it is nationally, when it is just among us, it doesn't happen. When the news comes from the New York Times or the Washington Post, everybody pays attention. No? So why don't we think about something like this? Another idea is that I think, I don't know what you really mean by prosecutor. If you're talking about judges and magistrates, what you really mean, but